Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the MarketSite studio in Times Square, New York City, we have Jeff Saviano, Global Tax Innovation Leader at EY, to discuss if voluntary AI regulation with the Biden administration and some of the biggest names in tech is going to be enough when it comes to regulation. Jeff, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you. It's nice to be here today, live in the city.
Yes, back. Everyone's back again. So let's talk about this. On Friday, July 21st, the Biden administration reached an agreement with 7 leading tech companies on AI safeguards, all the ones that we would think: Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Inflection, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI. Tell us more about what this agreement includes.
The pace of technology change is incredible. It is moving so fast, and the technology is so powerful. With powerful technology like this comes certain risks. And we're finding that there's risks around personal privacy, data privacy, for example, one of those, and also disinformation risk. And so in order to manage those risks, what this agreement is all about, those 7 companies and the Biden administration reached an agreement on how do you safeguard AI to ensure that there's safety, security, and trust, and those are proving to be quite important. It's all about the U.S. This was very U.S.-centric, but the administration has also said, Jill, that they want to be a leader in promoting an international code of conduct for what we're referring to as responsible AI.
Is this voluntary agreement enough to regulate AI?
I don't think it is, no, and I don't think anybody believes that this will be it. I think what we're finding is that this is an important step in that direction. And it's actually, even in the agreement, it says that this will move towards what will be responsible regulation of artificial intelligence. And I think that's an important part of this is that we're expecting that we're going to see not just regulation here in the US, we're going to see regulation around the world. And so as that comes, it's important for companies as they look to how do they adopt these technologies that they do it responsibly.
How is the U.S. government acting to ensure the AI safeguards are in place?
Well, and we're seeing it from a few different places. We're seeing it from, as we mentioned, from the administration itself. In May and June of this year, President Biden himself has been meeting with CEOs of leading companies and has also been meeting with AI experts and researchers, and they're starting to ask the questions and they're creating the dialogue about what is responsible artificial intelligence, what are the capabilities, and how do we safeguard it. So the president has taken certain steps. We're waiting for an executive order. There'll almost certainly be an order that will address semiconductors. The importance of semiconductors to this industry is of course very real, and also some concern about the large language models themselves and ensuring that we're not exporting any of our intellectual property to other countries. And so we're expecting an executive order. That's on the executive side. On the legislative side, there's been a fair amount of activity. Senator Schumer from here in New York has been on a listening tour this summer, meeting with companies and experts to understand both opportunities and risks. And so we're seeing legislative action, and also there's been quite a few proposed bills addressing issues like consumer protection and some of the data safety and security issues we talk about.
What about competition with China? Clearly that's a concern for legislators.
It's a concern. I think everybody's worried about that export, so exporting our intellectual property, exporting it to China. There was a letter last week, the House Select Committee on China sent a letter to US-based venture capital firms addressing this issue of investing, putting money in, investing in Chinese companies that are promoting both AI or semiconductors as well. So that is a concern. It's not just about China. I think it's a concern about other countries as well.
How can companies effectively take action now to promote a responsible approach?
I think it starts with governance, and we're seeing this across many companies. You've got to start with how can we use these applications? Just as we saw, Jill, these 7 companies reaching agreement on certain safeguards, I think there's a lesson there in adopting certain safeguards within companies that are applying technology itself. And so how can you take this idea of these safeguards and apply it to your own company? Begins with governance, I think, number one, and also protect the data, especially personal data, and protect people's privacy, and ensure that the data that companies have is protected and it's safe and secure, and experiment. It's hard to find a company that this is a board level issue. We are very aligned with Microsoft. Microsoft has been incredibly helpful for us in implementing certain testing of technology, and I think the product testing is quite an important piece of it here too.
Well, particularly in the tax function. I mean, look at all the data that's retained by that particular organization.
Yeah.
And you did a recent survey of tax and finance executives. How how do they feel? Do they feel confident in a sustainable plan for their data and technology strategies?
If you're looking for a place in the company to start, the tax people have a lot of data. And we find that many companies are actually starting, Jill, with tax because of how robust that tax data is. You've got to keep it private, you've got to keep it secure. Many times you've got personal identifiable information included within tax data, but what a great place to start. And so it's interesting from a finance, but more specifically tax perspective, first place many companies are going.
Tax. All right, Jeff, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.